Sure. I'll talk it out.
Yeah, let's just have a conversation.
Track 3.
Better not be fucking Dave Matthews Band.
Okay. Those of you who don't want to be a part of this can leave now.
Derek, please listen to me.
But if you choose to stay, which it seems like you guys are choosing,
Derek, please.
you understand and agree to the following terms and conditions.
Derek!
1.
Derek, this is the virus
You
talking.
hereby waive your right
Derek, please.
to your own personal bodily integrity.
This is not you.
2.
I'm a life...
Per the State versus Neville Reed, my colleague and I will not be held criminally liable for any felony or misdemeanor that you may be a victim of, including, but not limited to, aggravated assault, aggravated battery, disorderly conduct, destruction of property, mayhem, and first-degree murder. And 3, terms and conditions may change or be updated whenever the fuck I want! Consider yourselves notified.
What up, everyone? NJ Era Anubis has now kicked out GJ Anubis here with my co-host and partner, the poet James.
As the greatest of all time, I have come to this podcast.
They just lost to the lowly Nuggets. I mean,
I at 38 years old, I have a bad foot. All right, D'Angelo Russell was trash. All right, he's still better than the last Russ
yeah,
that
we're
we had.
here. We're gonna.
Happy Pride Month, by the way, to everybody who celebrates.
There you go. We're going to talk a little bit about some football later. A little bit of football to start all. It's off the field stuff with Shannon and Skip Bayless. I thought that was pretty interesting. And then we're going to dive into the NBA with the finals and the stuff that led up to it and the playoffs and whatnot. But yeah, so earlier this week, I discovered that Shannon Sharp is leaving undisputed with Skip Bayless. They've been doing this little program for 7 years. I remember seeing a while back, there was a bit of disagreement that started first about Tom Brady, of all things, because I know Skip really likes Tom Brady. But it got kind of personal. Like, Skip started taking shots at Shannon, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And I thought Shannon was going to strangle his ass right there on TV at first.
Fully capable of doing it. Shannon Sharp is a big, powerful man, and Skip, while he looks great for a 70-year-old, is still a 70-year-old and very small. Shannon is not a bully, but I remember one little tidbit here. About a year ago, I was watching. I very rarely listen to anything that Skip has to say. Ever since he went off the wall with his Dak Prescott's brother's death, and that shit's foul. That's when I pretty much washed my hands of him.
He has such
and I never
problem with this.
He gets these hardline positions and he just goes all in because he's a content creator, right? Like he is the mecca of that crap. For better or worse, it's usually worse. But I could see some frustration because Shannon would be arguing and Skip would interrupt him. He would mock him. He would do these little things that reminded me of like watching parents fight in public, like these small little things, and it'd get to the point where Shannon would be like, just go ahead, I'm done. And it was just palpable toxicity. And so to make it more football related, when the great Russell Wilson wars were happening on the board, somebody was taking umbrage with what Shannon Sharp was saying about Wilson. And so he's just saying this stuff and really going that hard because he's on that show with Skip and they play characters. and none of it's real. I didn't really like that because it's like Shannon has a ton of ties to the Broncos, and he was talking about conversations that he had with some of those people on the team and in the organization. And I made the comment, look, not all of that stuff is trumped up. Like I think Shannon's going to be gone pretty soon, and I ended up being right, just as kind of a way to bookmark that. And that was during this past regular season, towards the middle endish. I don't quite recall. So I have a question for you on it.
Mhm.
How in demand do you think Shannon Sharp is going to be, and how smart do you think he was to keep the rights of his own podcast? Because that came out too.
Right. I think he'll be in high demand. I read that ESPN's looking and hiring him. Could be on First Take with Stephen A. Smith, who I don't. There's times I like Stephen. There's times I don't like Stephen. He's kind of like Skip in a lot of ways, on the other side of the coin there. But
His old running buddy.
yeah, so I mean, Stephen wouldn't mind having him. I mean, Shannon, doesn't matter what show he goes to, he would be very good on it. He's very bright. He likes to talk, and he's a good smack talker. I like that part about Shannon. Always have. I think he'll do a very good job. I think he'll be in high demand because he's a good host. Like he knows what he's doing. Like I remember during that segment with him, he's like, well, actually, it came in this one. So here's what followed up that one. This is what many people would say would be the tipping point. So when Damar Hamlin got hurt in the Buffalo game, Skip makes his comment. No doubt the NFL is considered postponing the rest of the game, but how? This late in the season, a game of this magnitude is crucial to the regular season outcome, which suddenly seems so irrelevant. Now, initially, my stance on this was I thought maybe Skip was saying that Hamlin was more of importance in the game, but as I reread that, I'm thinking, no, he's actually saying what I'm thinking he's saying. And when Shannon skipped out the next day and then came back,
And it got real bad when they came back.
right? It's like, and that was that point that Shannon's like, I can't even get through my monologue without you interrupting. And so it tells me Shannon knows what he's doing. He knows how to be a host. He knows how to be on there. But he also is like you and I. He wears his heart on his sleeve. So he'll just tell you like it is. And a lot of people respected Shannon for that. They're like, good. I'm glad you put Skip on blast.
And the thing with Skip too, okay, because when that tweet came out, I remember reading it and going, if you take that tweet and you take the end and you put it at the front, there's not that big of a deal. I also took it as it's an extraneous thought. He's thinking out loud on Twitter, which is really easy to do. It's like, wow, the NFL has to deal with all of this, but what they're dealing with doesn't matter because this man's in this condition. And then you see Skip talk about his tweet, and like, even if that's what you meant, now you're just being such a jackass about it. It's hard to even believe that you had any empathy at all, which is horrifying when you're talking about a man whose heart stopped
right
on the field. And so Shannon took a lot of issue with that. And at first I was like, look, I think I know what Skip meant, but Skip has had, like, I referenced the Dak Prescott stuff. Folks, if you've suffered from depression or you have loved ones who do, and any issues of suicide in your life at all, you might want to skip that one out. I'll just say, pardon the pun, unintentional as it was. Just avoid that one. It's whatever you think it is and how bad you think it is, okay? He had that one. Skip is the guy who started the Troy Aikman is gay thing back in the 90s, if you remember that. Like, he's the guy who makes fun of people who are fat. Like, that's why some people think Jenny's not on that show anymore, is because she called him out for making fun of Mike. Oh God, he coaches the Cowboys right now. He coached the Packers.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about.
Mike McCarthy.
Mike McCarthy. Yeah, he was like, I don't want someone who looks like that coaching my team. Why would you? I'm paraphrasing, and
let me show you a guy named Andy Reid.
Yeah, Andy Reid, who has forgotten more about football than you will have forgotten about or known about anything, is a big heavy guy. Mike Ditka won a Super Bowl being a heavy set dude himself. There are some heavy guys out there, and
Yeah.
also like keep in mind, with Skip, he's a professional journalist. He's been a journalist for 40 years. He's been on Twitter since its inception. He's on TV any day, guy on every day. Guys like that do not get the benefit of the doubt for when they botch being a wordsmith, especially about something like that. And that can be a harsh standard. We're all human beings, and I understand that. All Skip had to say was, look, the man's life matters more. I should have said Damar's Hamlin's life matters more, and it poses this whole situation has such severe consequences for his life, his family, all the way down to football, which seems irrelevant now.
I think that's
And
what bothers people so much because instead of doubling down, he just like
triples down.
right. It's like, come on, man.
He
Like,
skips a step. And he doesn't have any grace about him. Like I am a firm believer. I've told people in my life I'm not going to apologize because I don't think I did anything wrong. And you know who I am, and you know what I'm about, so we can talk it out, or maybe we can just agree to disagree. And however you feel about that, if we need to part ways, I can respect that too. So if you're going to stand up there and say, "Hold on, guys, read the tweet in its entirety," like, yeah, maybe it wasn't a perfect tweet, but come on. Look at the last part of it. Read the whole tweet. If you're going to stand on that, which I think is a silly hill to die on, but if that's the hill that you're going to die upon, um, and I can understand why you would. You don't handle it like he does. Like Skip, if you push back on him at all, he'll push on you with a force of 9 out of 10. You'll push back on him 9 out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10, and he'll take it to a 12. He is one of the most sensitive human beings I have ever seen in my entire life, and I don't know how he's made it so far in the media. I used to read his old articles. He was a brilliant writer. And when he didn't have a camera on him and he couldn't just have this staccato and growing like tension and tension and tension and tension and just doubling down for the sake of doubling down, he was great. And he makes some good crafty arguments. But what
he
he
does. He's a
but what
smart
he
guy.
does, he is a smart guy, but there's a word that I want to introduce people to in case they don't know. It's called sophistry. Sophistry. The use of fallacious arguments, especially with the intention of deceiving.
How
Okay.
coincidental, man. We just interviewed Sophist the other day.
I know, I saw that. And but that is what Skip does. So like with the Baker Mayfield, like when he goes back to those magic 7 games or 11 games, or when he does like he was the king of doing it, another pun, against LeBron. Like Skip is such a LeBron hater that he makes some people who hate or dislike LeBron go, "Oh my God." And like the infamous well, most of his buzzer beaters don't count because they were tied. They weren't coming from behind. And it's like, okay, Skip, he
Dude,
made a
fucking
buzzer
winning
beater
is
to avoid.
winning. It doesn't matter
Yeah,
how you do
exactly.
it.
I'm on the road in Orlando and I hit this buzzer beater and then we win the game. But it doesn't count because if I was down a point, it's just insane, right? Like he just does stuff that's very silly, and that's going to wear on you regardless. Like just years of that, and then you factor in, um, and I know we talked about this before the show when he starts going at Shannon for what type of player he was, and it's just like, okay, Skip, there are 5 tight ends, okay, that I think are like the holy grail of tight ends for football. Okay, you have Gronk, you have Kelsey, you have Tony Gonzalez, you have Shannon Sharp, and then in my opinion, you give it to Ozzie Newsome. Okay, now there are Jason Witten has a million freaking catches. Antonio Gates and Vernon Davis did some things physically that those guys could never do, although they weren't as consistent. Um, both of them, I think Gates will make the Hall. I think Davis will get consideration, but will probably miss off. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Shannon Sharp is the GOAT when Shannon said, hey, I think Kelsey's better than me because his era happened. That's his era. People complained about my era. I will just say, God, I wish I could have played in his era. Okay, because Shannon, he's not going to sit there and say I'm the best, unless except for that segment against Tony Gonzalez, where they were killing each other, but they're also good friends. So you're going to tell a guy who, in my opinion, is solidly within the top 5 of his position and say, well, you're not qualified to say anything bad about Tom Brady. Okay, follow that logic. If you can't criticize someone who's better than you, Skip can't be on the show. Like you can't be on the show. Journalists can't talk. Like you can't only Michael Jordan can talk bad about any other player. Like it's an insane position to take, especially coming from a guy who's 5'2", weighs 93 pounds, never played sports on any level. Like there's a reason why when we do this show, even if we're talking about an athlete that we don't like or we think's overrated, we say things like give them their due. A lot of people disagree with me. He or she has this track record because we're not trying to sit up here and be a bunch of hot take artists bashing people who are in the thick of things. With that
Sometimes.
being said, if I think somebody is overrated or bad, I'm gonna say it. I'm just not gonna get wildly out of pocket. Like I might cuss and be animated because it's funny, but I'm not gonna sit there and denigrate a first ballot Hall of Fame, tight end who literally helped change the game because you think this quarterback is better. Okay, like it. And if I was Shannon, I don't know how he didn't, take all those stupid papers that they have on that table that don't say anything. There's nothing. I'm convinced. There's no damn stats on those. All right, that shit is just there for show because it's a very and I love Shannon, but it's a very fact-free type of debate. Okay, that they do. All right, now part of that is because they're usually talking about stuff that happened the night before, but they're not exactly throwing zingers at one another. Whoa, 1975, Oscar Robertson had the triple double lead or whatever it was, and then Russ did it, and da 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 da. We didn't care when he did it. Why
Yeah,
do
I
we
mean,
care?
look, you can't do a show for 7 years and not have a good repertoire with one another, and they
Yeah.
did. Like they have a good repertoire. In fact, I kind of saw some of Shannon's comments about him leaving and signing the ESPN working their contract out, but he's like, there's really no hard feelings between him and Skip. It's just that it was time to move on.
Yeah.
And sure, some of that you can sit there and say, well, I'm pretty sure there's a little bit of hard feelings because of what happened, but I don't think Shannon or Skip are going to hate each other because of what's happened here. It just happened.
No, they
Yeah.
they made each other a lot of money. Like Skip handpicked Shannon. Now there's some people coming out who worked at Fox who said, yeah, he picked Shannon, but Skip always had to be the highest paid one, and he had to always have the right to choose topics. They fought over who got to choose the topics. Shannon called him out on that. I think for the Cowboys. Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl since before the turn of the century, but we spend so much time talking about them. Stuff like that. I think that time heals most wounds. I think Shannon, who can be a bit of a hothead himself, like you remember the Lakers game and the stuff
Mhm.
with the Grizzlies and whatnot. But he's a mature guy. He grew up dirt poor in the South. That type of upbringing gives a great perspective on people. Growing up in poverty brings a great perspective, and I would say a wisdom on people. Just speaking from my dad, did not grow up in rural Georgia as a black man, but he came to America pretty poor, from Tunisia, and his side of the family was very poor in Tunisia. Um, I think he's going to look at Skip, appreciate the good things, just say, look, I can't take that type of disrespect. I need to make more money because at this point, and this is the spicy take. Skip used to be the biggest draw for those talk shows because he was so crazy and so animated. Shannon's the bigger draw now. He's the guy with the social media presence. Club Shay Shay is huge. Being Unk, the celebration when the Lakers won it all in 2020, the most difficult championship ever, the one that cemented LeBron James being the goatness. It's a well-known fact. Coming out with the goat, all that stuff. People fell in love with him as a personality, and some people don't even know he was a damn good football player. He
Oh,
talks
he's
about
a
how I'm way
great
more
football
famous
player.
now. People are like, oh, you played football? Is that why you know so much about it? He's like, I
One
have a
thing that gets
busted king.
overlooked all the time for Shannon is when he went to the Ravens, man. Like even though that defense in 2000 was amazing,
Yeah.
offensively it was Shannon that made some of the biggest plays
Yes.
in that playoff series. So
Yep.
without Shannon, they may not even win that Raiders game.
He
That's
has
how big of an
3
impact he was.
rings as a tight end. And I do think that winning is sometimes an overrated metric, and I do think that for some positions it matters even less. But you got 3 of them rings, you got 3 of them things, right? Like they stay on his finger, and at the end of the day, Shannon Sharp, you can nitpick him for not being a great blocker. You can nitpick him for playing mostly with John Elway. You can always find some way to denigrate or minimalize
You could take
somebody's
any tight end in history that was great. They have a great quarterback.
quarterback, right? Or they're Tony Gonzalez and they're just feeding him the ball. There's
Yeah,
always like if I have a great quarterback, I want him to throw the ball to someone who's also great. Like it's a very silly, unless you get to like Joe Montana levels where you have one of the best lines in history and one of the best defenses in history, and Jerry Rice and the first guy, I'm sorry Niners fans, Joe Montana is overrated and he always has been. He's not better than John Elway. See, I'm such a good host. I'll even say it for you. You
thank
know,
you.
but
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. As the greatest basketball player of all time, I must be magnanimous. Folks, we're having
Well,
such a we're having
people
such a good
people
time today.
that don't know yet, we're going to be having an actual episode
Debate
of Poetic Carnage to talk specifically about Jordan Bryant and LeBron James.
names. Oh, we're throwing
It's an
Kobe in there.
ongoing battle,
Yeah.
and I've got to work my magic, to get Poet on the same side as me, but it's going to happen. I have faith in him that he will see the light.
So
But
that
no,
is
it's going to be a fun discussion.
it's gonna be
It's
it's
going to be a
gonna be
little
fun.
fiery.
It is, and I think that one of the things that we should do, since we're just talking about it, I think we should each have about 2, maybe 3 arguments that we give the other person, and say I want you to specifically address this, because in that thread, and you've heard me bring this up before, type out all this stuff. It's common knowledge or well sourced. You can Google it, because I'm done being the for every last point I make, here's 2 links, because you fucks didn't read it anyway, and I did that shit for years. Now I dare you to call me out on being wrong
Well, that's
factually.
the funny thing about that thread is that, people will say, well, Kings or Poets bringing all these stats and data. And I'm like, well, he is, but so am I. But no one takes the time to read either of our shit. And that's the problem.
Yeah. Well, you and I, and the reason we're barely addressing one another is because we're going to do this podcast on it. And the other thing of it, too, is, that's why he's MJ Air Nubis, why I'm the Poet James. And obviously it's the basketball reference, for the Western Conference Finals really ended up being the championship round. It's like the NFC back in the day. But the reality of the situation, with some of these conversations is like the reason why LeBron James versus MJ is so evergreen, and the reason why they have whole shows devoted to it and whatnot, is because there's an actual debate to be had there and it's entertaining. But the problem is, and I think this is what Shannon fell into, because he would scream at Skip, I'm not talking about Michael Jordan. I'm talking about what LeBron did last night on the 47th regular season game, you know, and Skip would always try to make the conversation about something that it wasn't, and that's irritating. With Shannon, especially since he is the bigger draw than Skip is at this point, he wants some creative control. He probably wants some more money. I don't necessarily blame him. He's in his early 50s right now. Okay, he's got 1 million quotables. He looks like he's in his 30s. He's gonna, he's lived a very healthy lifestyle. He can amass generational wealth that far exceeds what he made as a football player, even if you adjust for inflation and time. He wasn't going to get there with Skip. And I think that when Skip kept emotionally pushing him and pushing him and pushing him, and he had to look within, and it's not like Shannon Sharp wants for confidence either. He's one of the greatest football players, firmly in the top 100 players who ever played, firmly a top 5 tight end ever. Undrafted guy. His story is incredible. Obviously, he's very confident, but sometimes we all have to take a step back and look at ourselves and just kind of realize where we are. And Skip picked him. He doesn't need Skip anymore. And
Yeah, I
Skip's
think the
being
one
an
thing you
ass.
pointed out too was about Shannon's background, and I think when you watch what happened with that Brady discussion, like for everything that Shannon worked for that was so hard, like to do what he did, to become the Hall of Famer, to become the Super Bowl champion, for Skip to kind of like slightly dismiss that, even if Skip wasn't totally serious about it, that hit Shannon's pride. You can see the pain in Shannon's face. Like it was like one of those moments where he was, I can't really speak for Shannon, but he almost looked like he was ready to cry, but it was like a cry because you're angry that someone's like so dismissive about what you're
I'm
doing.
crying so I don't hit you. Like
Right.
I'm processing this in such a way you don't
Right.
die.
It's like, it's fine because, like, in the end, Shannon's probably going to be the professional. He's going to, respect Skip. He's going to say, we're going to part on good terms. But deep down, you stung me. Like, that was, whether or not you meant it, it's just fucked up. And I
And
can
that's
see
why
why that would be a problem going forward.
because you're denigrating.
Yeah.
You're saying I can't say anything bad. And Shannon, he would call out he'd call out Skip for saying, you literally will excuse anything, like Tom Brady skipping OTAs when he kills Rodgers for it. Well, it's different because he's the GOAT. You killed Des Bryant for blowing up on the sideline, but Tom Brady does. And you're like, well, it's different because he's the GOAT. And he brought up the when Cam Newton did stuff like this, everybody got on him, but it's different because it's Brady. Well, and he's like, you don't have the right to talk about Tom Brady that way. Well, okay, well, because look what he is in comparison to you. Okay, he is
Different
now
positions. That was the one thing I kept pointing to. Is like, dude, they're two different positions, but
yeah.
Shannon in his position is still one of the top players ever. So, like, I don't get it. Like,
over the middle of the field in an era where safeties were like, none of us, all but there's 5 of us who can actually cover, but we're just gonna run into your helmet with our helmet. Woo! Look how good I am at football. Like, in an era where we're like, fuck free safeties, I need a strong safety to crowd the box. Like, in that time frame, you're gonna sit there and denigrate a guy who goes over the middle, whose stats would still stand up today. If you go back to when we were talking about the Bills draft, and I was like, okay, you have this tight end who's going to catch between 40 and 60 balls, between high 400 to low 600, and yada yada yada. There's 12 of these guys, and the guy you just took projected to be out there. That's in the passing league in 2023, and Shannon Sharp's banging out 700, 800, 900, 1,000-yard seasons in the freaking 90s. And that guy doesn't get to have a right to say anything about Tom Brady. And Skip got hurt because he said, you've never been in the locker room. And they used to always joke, I've never been in the locker room. You were never a journalist. That's why this stuff works. And that's why it was a good pairing. And at the end of the day, I do put a lot of this on Skip. Shannon can be aggravating. We don't know what happened behind doors, but it's very telling that Shannon went on Twitter and started liking all these posts that were saying some pretty foul stuff.
oh yeah, definitely, it's poking the bear, But
Yeah.
at the same time, he doesn't have to do the same. It's everyone else.
And that brings me to the last point I want to make. So there were several people who worked at Fox, and in particular, I remember it came from Marcellus Wiley. That Skip is the chosen one at Fox. When he left ESPN, they snagged him. It was a coup. He's a huge rating bump. No one's ever going to make more money than him. He gets creative control. If you say somebody was a co-host on Wiley's show, or on that show and made a joke about Skip and they called them in and then they never got the co-host again. Like, he is a sacred cow. He type of guy. He's the quarterback in OTAs with the red jersey on. I can't. First off, Skip talks way too much trash. for him to be that protected. Secondly, if he needs that type of protection, he should retire. Thirdly, I don't really think that he does, because he's turned the other cheek towards Charles Barkley for decades now. So at the end of the day, the way that I look at it is, whoever they get to co-host it, I think that they're kind of screwed, because if Skip
Oh, you're
has,
talking about with Skip?
yeah.
Actually, I've read that they're considering LaShawn McCoy.
Oh Jesus.
Now, here's the thing,
Oh,
because I haven't seen too much of LaShawn stuff, but I did see him on his show that he's currently part of. Do you think he's more of kind of like an agreeable yes guy as opposed to
no.
a confrontation guy like Shannon?
LaShawn McCoy, I don't think he's super confrontational.
That's what I
Um,
mean.
I'll just say this. He's not a pushover either. Um,
Right.
he has some really bad takes, and I don't want to. I only watch that show for Shannon. I usually go on YouTube in the morning and in the afternoon and see like what they'd put up, because I'd like to hear Shannon's take. I loved his takes on football. I liked a lot of his basketball takes, and that's really what the show is. It's basketball and football. They don't do a lot of baseball. They don't do hockey. I don't know if I've ever seen them do hockey. They tried to do MMA a little bit, and that shit was embarrassing. When Skip was like sumo wrestling, and Shannon was talking about how he knew that Ronda Rousey was going to lose because of body language and stuff like that. It was a bad look for both of them. So I don't know, but I'll just tell you this. The people who would be good opposite of them, they can't put them there. You can't put Nick Wright there, because Nick
He's
Wright,
another consideration, though.
he would kill Skip. Nick Wright has
Well,
some
maybe
hot
that's what they
takes.
want.
No, they want Skip to be able to somewhat hold his own and have it be cordial. Nick Wright has some sophist in him. He and I align on LeBron, but so a couple days ago he was making this defense of LeBron, and I'm not going to get into it, but I was like, that's just a bad take. That's just not sound on anything. Okay, but he will kill Skip. They'll just scream at each other. They won't have respect for one another. Joy Taylor would be amazing. She's a great personality and she knows sports, but nobody wants to see her. I mean, she's just gonna go buck on him instantly. It wouldn't work. Like, I don't know who they're gonna fucking get. The guy that they had was perfect for the show, and they never. It is what it is. Shannon
Well,
go
they
make
did
12
say
million
that
at
whoever
ESPN.
they're going to choose, that Skip still has the final say. So
Yeah, it's I would never tell somebody that they need to retire. But Jesus Christ, Skip, you've made a lot of money. Go
either
do
way,
some
I think
cardio on
they'll
the
both
beach.
be okay. I think Shannon will be okay, and I think Skip will be as well.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into our NBA stuff. Obviously, my Trailblazers were not a part of any of this stuff this year. They started out strong and they just fizzled out. They had a lot of injuries, and Damian tried to carry it a little bit, but
Oh, my dog is being obnoxious. So
I don't know if it's time for Lillard to maybe considering to go to a team that has other stars, because sometimes I
it's
just wonder if
it's
Portland.
well, they're talking about trading. You have like the third or the fourth pick, and they're talking about trading that pick, and getting another star. They want to keep Lillard. They have Chauncey Billups as their GM. He's only been there. I think this is the end of his first year, maybe his second. You never want to be the GM who gets rid of the beloved superstar.
Right.
Dame has got a couple good years left in him. Seems to be the consensus opinion. Um, what sucks for the Blazers is, once again, a generational big man goes to San Antonio. First Robinson, then Duncan, now Wembanyama. Yeah, now my dog has calmed down. She likes to try to eat the pillows and licks her paws too much, so sometimes I have to pull her over so she'll
Maybe
behave
Dame
better.
should go to the Nuggets and be that third player.
No, he talked about. They asked him a question about where he'd want to go, and he said, "Well, the Heat, because he's really good friends with Bam Adebayo." But then he said, "But if they win the championship this year, then it's a no-go for me." He wants to go to a place that hasn't won a ring recently and be a driving force. He's an old school guy. That's why, and I know you're a Blazers fan. So for about a decade, you've heard all the Dame to LA rumors because he's an LA guy, but he's friends with LeBron and he loves LeBron, but he doesn't necessarily want to be second fiddle. I think he wants to either be the number one, which he arguably would be with Butler. Um, he's an old school guy in that way.
Mhm.
I don't like the idea of trading the third or fourth pick. There's a couple of really really talented guys that could fall to you. I would trade Dame. I would see what the Knicks have to offer. Um, granted they're going to want to try to give you Julius Randle, and you don't want that.
Yeah.
But
That's always a rub because like the Knicks had a pretty good year, and
yes, they did.
you know, Dane would be a great fit there. But then how much would you have to give up to the Knicks to even get him there? And that's always a rub.
Exactly. At a certain point, the way the NBA contracts work, right? Like Russell Westbrook, horribly inefficient player, horrible person to have on your team in certain situations, horrible contract. Everyone thought the Lakers to move him and get anything of value was going to have to give up the 2 first-round picks. Our front office holds off. They trade him and basically a bunch of small trades. It's really all happened because of that. So it's one big trade. Give him a first-round pick, and we got all the guys who revamped the roster and helped us get to the Western Conference Finals, where we fell to those effing Nuggets. Damn it. A big part of the reason we were able to do that is because Russ had an expiring contract, and it was huge. Teams who want to rebuild want to take their players, especially those with years remaining, swap that salary for an expiring contract, get something back in return, and start over with cap space. For
What
an
about
NFL,
what about the Suns? Because I heard that.
oh, they're gonna get James Harden. They got rid of Chris Paul, so
Yeah, I
they're gonna
heard they
try to
were
get
letting
Harden
Chris go.
and play zero defense and still lose before the conference finals. I don't. Poor Frank Vogel. That's the head coach that he being Russ got fired. For an NFL analog, you remember when the Texans traded Brock Osweiler in his awful contract and they got back a second round pick? That was basically called, oh God, it's a salary killer trade. It's an NBA trade. That's why it was called that.
That's probably
So
the only guy that was able to fleece both the Texans and the Browns and not
that
really play it
shit,
down.
that shit was amazing. And I like the Browns are like, well, we're gonna suck for these 2 years anyway, so it doesn't matter. Might as
Yeah.
well, But the thing of it with Dame is if it's gonna cost that much, teams will be like, well, we're clearing your salary cap for you. So that has to be a consideration. You can justify keeping him. I think the big problem is the types of stars that you could get with that pick are really good players. You could probably get Kawhi for that pick. The Clippers would say, no, we're trying to win it all, but I think you could. But he doesn't play a lot. Paul
Yeah.
George is an amazing player, but he doesn't play a lot.
Well, that's my only
You
concern is like, I mean, it sounds bad because as a Blazer fan, I'm talking about Dame getting traded away, but like, I just don't have faith that Portland's going to do what it takes to get the help that he needs. But at the same time, if Damian isn't like willing to bring other stars in or be a part of a star team, like I get some of his point, but
he doesn't want to go. He's fine with people joining him.
he just
doesn't
doesn't
want
want to go
join
there.
them.
Yeah, but see, I don't understand that logic either because in the end, you want to be a part of something special. And
But he's that old school dog where you can join me on my team. But
Jordan.
the problem is
the Jordan complex.
yeah. But the issue is, it's not necessarily small market, big market, right? Because the Bulls can't really get huge top tier, god tier, top 10 players in free agency. Chicago's a huge city. The Warriors can, and both San Francisco and Oakland are smaller cities, right? But for a long time, they couldn't. The Mavericks have, there's the infamous story of Mark Cuban getting in the car trying to find DeAndre Jordan's car in the suburbs no, you said you're going to sign with us. Please sign with us. Please don't go back to the Clippers, right? So Dallas, in a state with no income tax, has trouble getting free agents. It's just some cities land more than others.
Yeah.
And trades partially because it's like I'm not going to trade for a guy who I know is not going to resign here, except in very special circumstances. So Oregon's a great state. Portland's one of the most popular cities. I believe, for tourists, people love living there. I believe it's still one of the fastest growing cities in the country. I know it was not that long ago. I don't know how it is post pandemic period, but it's not, and the fans are amazing, but it's not a place where you're going to necessarily get a lot of people who are going to want to come join him. So the Blazers are in a tough spot. I guess it's going to come down to this. If I can get enough for Dame to at least threaten the Western Conference championship, because that's to me what a contender is. Are you good enough to be one of the final 4 teams remaining? Okay. Then you do it. And if not, you just have to blow it up and hope for the best. It's brutal. Like for an analog, look at the Nuggets who are about to win their first championship. They got Jokic in the second round. Jamal Murray, one of my Kentucky guys, not a super, highly touted prospect. I can't. God, I think he was like a late first rounder. I don't even remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, he kind of came out of nowhere.
He came in on. He was getting better. He went on fire in the bubble. Got hurt. Has been nursing himself back, and now he's playing like a top 5 scoring guard. I watched him a lot in Kentucky. I knew the guy had skills. It's kind of like Devin Booker. Devin Booker never started the game in Kentucky. He was their 6th man. Now he's one of the best players in the league. God, I wish they could have done that for us in the tournament. But my trauma and sadness aside, there, you have to get lucky and hit. You look at the Warriors dynasty. KD is the one who cemented it because they had LeBron issues, but Steph barely in the lottery. Klay Thompson wasn't highly thought of. Draymond, I believe, was a 2nd round pick. Mark Jackson coached him up about as far as he could. Steve Kerr helped them take a big step forward. It's a big process to get these guys to pan out. When the Lakers traded for Anthony Davis, everyone was like, well, you lost Brandon Ingram and Josh Hart and Lonzo and all these guys. I'm like, I don't care. You can only start 5 players. I'm going to be okay with the generational talent at center/power forward. It has worked out well for us. Lonzo Ball was becoming an amazing player. His career might be over due to injuries. It is depressing. Brandon Ingram is a really, really good player, but he's not a number 1 superstar. And he's on that fringe top 20-ish type of guy. Josh Hart's up and down, up and down, up and down. The Knicks are going to give him a bunch of money. He's probably going to regress because that's what his career has been. And so on and so forth. It's so hard to get a championship caliber team. It's so brutal. And if I'm the Blazers, I would just sit down with Dame and be like, what do you want to do? He's like 34 or 35. Personally, I lean towards trading him and blowing it up.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Before we get into the Nuggets and Heat, I do want to touch on the playoffs. Obviously, the Heat were an 8th seed that went on a run and got there. Your Lakers were looking pretty good for a while, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen when they played the Nuggets, but the Nuggets went out and swept them.
It was a frustrating series for me. Game 1, we're down by like 20-something. We almost come back and win, okay? Then the media starts doing crazy things and say it was like a good loss because they figured stuff out for Jokic. And I'm like, look, we put Vanderbilt on him. We put different guys on him at the end. He didn't stop kicking our ass. He stopped kicking our asses badly. And then between games 2 and 4, the Lakers had plenty of chances to win. They didn't. The Nuggets were the better team. I would have loved, and this is the reality of the situation for where you are as a Lakers fan. The past year and a half, because it all turned around at the trade deadline, our team was plagued by, I'm going to try to be fair, because I do not like Russell Westbrook, a bad fit on the court and a bad personality fit in our locker room. Kobe Bryant said it best. Not everybody is built to wear a Los Angeles Lakers jersey. Okay. There are a lot of reports about what Russ was doing in the locker room, and people credit him with getting Frank Vogel fired and all kinds of stuff. Okay. So it did not work out. And going into last year, we were the title favorite. And I was like, I don't even know if we're going to make the playoffs because we're going to have injuries and Russ just ain't it. And then we missed it, and people thought I was just being overly critical on Russ. And not all of that was his fault. LeBron got hurt, Davis got hurt. My guy, and those are my guys. You know, this season he sort of came off the bench and sort of tried to play defense, but would fall back into those same habits. The last game before the All-Star break, he refused to. He didn't want to go off the court, and all this crap. You can find it. It's very well documented. We trade him. We trade a first-round pick. We get all these guys, and they're dogs. Vanderbilt can play defense. Actually, the only guy that we got who couldn't play defense was D'Angelo Russell. But we needed a shooter, and we needed someone who could play point guard a little bit when LeBron couldn't do it or didn't want to do it, and when Reeves was on the bench. Okay, Reeves eventually became a starter for us down the stretch.
So, do you think it's an age factor right now?
It's. I'm sitting here and I'm going. I was watching tape of LeBron before the foot injury that almost ended the season, and he looked amazing.
Mhm.
Okay, but he's 38, so
Right.
it is conceptually, yes, he could play and barely get nicked up again. We've seen legends do that. Usually not at 38, not with the miles on his tread. But now I just look at it and I was like, I had a horrible year and a half. I had a really fun back half. Yeah, I would, in a magical world where we always had this roster and we had a little bit better chemistry offensively. Our defensive chemistry was pretty good, and LeBron was healthy. I would love to play that series over again. But this is how sports work. Steph Curry got his first ring against LeBron with no Kyrie and no Kevin Love. No one really holds that series against LeBron. On the flip side, he got to taste what it was like when Clay and Durant got hurt against Kawhi and the Raptors, right? So sports injuries happen.
Mhm.
You can only complain if you're like the Ravens, what was it 2 years ago when their entire starting secondary was out and some of their backups got hurt? It's like, okay, all right, that's why we lost. We lost an entire unit and change on our defense, which is supposed to be our strength that year. The injured gods just said, fuck us. Okay, whatever it is. We had a moderately healthy team go in against the number one seed. We got our clocks cleaned. Yeah, I do believe that the Lakers would beat the shit out of the Heat, largely because the last time they met in the finals, the Lakers beat the shit out of the Heat. And I think our roster is closer to what we were then than the Heat are to what they are now. But the Nuggets, and this is the reality of the situation, Jokic is the best player in basketball. I will accept somebody saying Giannis and taking him on preference. That's it. Not Embiid, not Steph, not this weird fascination we have with trying to make Jason Tatum being a top 5 player. He's not. It is Jokic firmly one. I can understand the Giannis argument. That is it. He's the best player in the world right now. He's the most disrespected MVP I've ever seen. I personally, when I look back at his 2 MVPs, and this is how it relates to where the Nuggets are now, he won those MVPs being a stat cod carrying injured teams. He took those teams into the playoffs that were injured. Murray wasn't there one year, and then he was nursing. Porter Jr. had issues. All that crap. Okay, and they lost early. Well, I can't think of a literal legend in the NBA, okay, who has not failed in the playoffs at some point. And oftentimes, these god tier top 10 players who get bounced early, a lot of times it's because their team sucked. Whether it was injuries, a bad roster, whatever it is. I'm old enough to remember when Tom Brady looked at the Patriots roster and then looked at Bill Belichick being an asshole and said, fuck it, I'm taking my talents to Florida. Okay. I'm old enough to remember LeBron James going, we could have had Amari Stoudemire, and you went out and got Antoine Jameson. Nah, man, I'm done, right? I'm not saying that the Nuggets failed to give Jokic talent. They gave him great talent. Porter Jr. is a great player. Jamal Murray is a great player. They weren't there. And
Right.
because of that, we have this disrespect towards Jokic where people are like, I can't believe he's this good. Then you didn't watch him play.
Right.
And it's okay to say you didn't watch him play. Lisa Salters didn't watch him play. Mark Jackson forgot to put him on his MVP ballot. I'm more forgiving towards Lisa Salter not seeing him play because she watches the games that she's assigned to. Mark Jackson was a coach. You should know who the top 5 players are in the league. You should know what Jokic did. Embiid got the MVP. It's not that he was unworthy. He had an amazing season. Jokic and the Nuggets kind of cooled off towards the end. Okay. That's probably what swung it. A lot of people didn't want to give it to Jokic because, well, Mike didn't win 3 MVPs. Kareem didn't win 3 MVPs. LeBron didn't win 3 MVPs. To me, what that argument always signified was, well, those guys should have won 3 MVPs in a row, right? And then we didn't do it for whatever reason, and now we want to keep repeating the same mistake. For context, for our listeners, when Kareem had the best season, arguably, of his entire career, it was after back-to-back MVPs. And they were like, well, you were better than you were those other 2 years, and you're a title contender again, and you're by far and away the best player in the league. We're going to give it to this other guy, though, because 3 is just too much. It doesn't make sense. And you know what? It doesn't diminish. And both MJ and Braun and Kareem guys are like, well, if our guy didn't get that, why should he get it? It doesn't diminish Jordan's or LeBron's or Kareem's legacy. We look back at that and we go, yeah, that was dumb. They should have had their MVPs. Why does it diminish it to get it right? And so you say all that to say this. I had the Nuggets winning that series in 7 because there were some close games early on in the series that I thought the Lakers were going to steal, right? Because they had won. They had stolen a game actually against the 2nd seed, the Grizzlies, and the Warriors. We stole game 1 each time. And so I was like, I think we'll steal maybe a game at Denver. We'll split, yada, yada, yada. And the games kept being close. I was like, hey, I might be right. And then the Nuggets got it. And I was like, wow, that was the closest sweep I think I've ever seen.
So in your opinion, what is it? And I'm going to rewind a little bit, but I want this question to be answered by you.
Okay.
What is it about this team that is different than what the Nuggets have done in the past? So I think back to Carmelo, or I think back to the 80s. What is it about this team that's been able to get over the hump? I remember the team that defeated Seattle in the wild. They were the low seed that upset the Sonics that year. Like, what is it about this team that's different? How is it because they're put together? Is it Jokic? Is it the coaching? What is it exactly that's made this team different?
Well, it's not coaching because Mike Malone's just not a great head coach. He's a pretty good head coach. He's got a ceiling. He's not a great X's and O's guy. He's pretty good. That's it. He's not a Spoelstra. He's not that. Okay. They have the best player. They have the best all-around offensive player. They have a player who used to be abysmal on defense, who is now a solid defender, and that's Jokic. So Jokic is one of the best. He's one of the best at getting a bucket when he needs to. He's arguably the best passer in basketball. He's a force, getting rebounds. He's dominant in the paint. Just to give people an idea, I tend to like stats because they are factual things. And I'm not just a read the box score type of guy because that's lazy. The stats matter when they're contextualized. The only between his rebounds, his assists, and his scoring, they have all gone up from the regular season. He has elevated his play. The only major stat offensively for him that has gone down is his shooting percentage, which is to be expected because it's the playoffs. Things get harder, fouls aren't as frequent, yada, yada, yada. So they have the best player in the world doing the best player in the world type things. They have Jamal Murray, who last game also had a triple-double. I think it was the first time that you had 2 players with a triple-double. So
one thing they mentioned was that I was reading that Murray and Jokic have good chemistry. They apparently played with each other before high school or something.
I don't know because he's from Serbia. They might have played internationally because Murray is from Canada.
Okay.
So I
Yeah, they
can't.
said something about there was like really good court chemistry between the two of
Well,
them.
they love one another and they've been playing since pre-bubble with one another. Um, Jokic is a guy who he's very LeBron-esque. He looks at the game like a computer. I have the ball here. What is the most likely thing that's going to end with a positive result? Can I replicate that? Like it's literally a computer algorithm. And so you have Murray, who's one of the guys who can get hot and score, and he's also a pretty damn good facilitator. You have Michael Porter Jr., who's kind of a jack of all trades offensively. Okay. And so a guy I follow on Twitter, and he used to post a lot on the board, not as much as G Money. And like he will live tweet the Nuggets games, and he makes these fascinating observations specifically about Michael Porter Jr. Everything he says is fascinating. He's just got that beautiful sports mind, but especially about Michael Porter Jr. because that's kind of the team's X factor. He can hit threes. He can play in the dunker spot. Yada yada yada. You also have I believe the man's name is Aaron Gordon. So your starting lineup, and you have KCP, Kentavious Caldwell Pope. So
Mhm.
your worst player is KCP, and he's a really good 3-and-D player. Okay, he's streaky from the line, but he's always playing good defense, and he's got, as the kids say these days, that dog in him. Gordon is an athletic guy who can get to the bucket. Michael Porter Jr. is kind of a bit of a mercurial player, but he's a 6'10 shooter who can dribble and get to the bucket. You have Jamal Murray, who's just a great basketball player. They have the best starting lineup in basketball, and it's not particularly close. They have the best player in basketball. It's not particularly close. And how Miami was able to steal a game off of the Nuggets, I'm not trying to beat up on Malone, although as a Lakers fan, I think he whines about us a little bit too much. But everybody wants to coach the Lakers, so I can't hate on him too much for being jealous. Is when Spoelstra is out coaching him. Spoelstra is the best coach in basketball right now. Like the way that they go in and out of the zone defense, it's not just to stop Denver, it's to rest their guys and play strategic, and it's a source of comfort for them. So when you factor in all of those things, what's getting them over the hump is Denver. They have everything. This is one of the best basketball teams I've seen in my lifetime. Like off the top of my head, teams that I think are better, right? And I'm going off of the presumption that the Nuggets are going to win. Warrior Dynasty, sure. Spur Dynasty, sure. You could argue, I'd take the LeBron Heat. I saw Shaq and Kobe, and I saw the Jordan teams, and I saw the Rockets, those championship teams. They fit in the middle of that tier, right? You could argue all those teams I just said are better. What they have in common with all of those teams is their starting five is just ferocious. I'll take it a step further. They have these great players coming off of the bench. Now, I mean, great as like a role player. This Braun guy he's a dog, amazing defender. Sometimes it just comes down to your supreme talent or how hard you fight in your star. And the Heat overcame a better roster every last step of the way. They will not be able to overcome the better roster this time because it's just the best starting five in basketball. And Jokic makes all of these really good players, undervalued players, just that much better. I mean,
I found this interesting is that the average points in the playoffs right now, Jokic is at 30 and Murray's at 27. From there, it's pretty much just about 13 points or under for Porter, Gordon, Brown,
yep.
KCP. And then on Heat, though, you have Butler at 27, and then you have Abadeo at 17. But then again, after that, it's 13 or below for Vincent, Martin, and Harrow. So
It's crazy because if you look at
Yeah,
Michael Porter Jr., he'll score 25, 30 points and then come back and get you 12. He's kind of up and down. Some of
right.
that is just because the other guys are going off, and I've seen like that might be a night where Murray and Jokic are going off, and then maybe it's Gordon, maybe it's KCP, and there's just so many touches, and you're winning by 30, and it doesn't matter, right? Um, but they have had some close games. It's a good observation though because there's the stat. It's Jokic if he has to score too much. I don't remember if it's like him scoring 40 or 35. Maybe it's over 30. But the record's not nearly as good because what Jokic is great at, like he can get a bucket anytime he wants. But we've seen great teams have a guy who can get a bucket anytime he wants. And it's like, okay, well, what are the other guys doing?
Right.
And Jokic just won't let you. There are games where he scores a bunch and they lose, and it's like, okay, well, why did he start shooting so much in the second half? And you look at everybody else's shooting percentage, and they're like, oh, they couldn't buy a bucket. They were building houses.
Yeah, one thing I'm wondering because, and obviously Miami won game 2 in Denver, and I noticed also with the Lakers that Denver has a tendency they get up big, but then they kind of let teams back in it. Do you think that's a concern for the rest of the
Uh,
series?
it's Mike Malone syndrome. He has this horrible. I can't tell you how many times I've seen Nuggets fans on Twitter be like, just call the timeout. You're up 20 points. You were up 20 points. Team goes on an 8-1, a 10-2 type run. Just call the timeout. And then he doesn't. And then they turn around and somebody throws a lazy pass or does something stupid and he calls a timeout ostensibly to berate them. You know, he is a good coach. Like I'm trying to be fair because he whines so much about the Lakers, so it's hard to be fair. But he tries to do the Phil Jackson thing where I'm not going to call a timeout. They're going to figure it out. I was like,
Right.
well, that's great. That's great. But there was Pippen and Jordan and Rodman or Shaq and Kobe and Derek Fisher. Like like Jokic is on that tier of those guys. You know, he is. You can compare prime Jokic to any of those guys, including Jordan. I'm not calm down, Jordan fans. I'm not saying Jokic is better than Jordan. I'm just talking about a very specific point in time in their fucking career.
No, he's just better than LeBron James.
He's just better than. Well, I mean, yeah, flopping. Can we talk
Just
about how
kidding.
Jokic
Just
flops and
kidding.
whines? Okay, all right. I'm trying to be gracious. Jesus God, lucky I'm so humble. I want to read this stat about Jokic because I've been a Jokic guy for a long time. I've been arguing like we were talking about before the show that he's been on Giannis's level. Well, Giannis is a two-way player. He is, but Jokic is a much better offensive player. I'm not saying that Giannis is a slouch on the offensive end. He's not, but you can make up for that type of thing. This is from the Ringer. This is just data. This is a quote. For a minimum of 2,000 playoff minutes, among all players with at least 1,000 playoff shot attempts, Jokic ranks second with 57% effective field goal accuracy, behind only Dwight Howard at 59%. Dwight only did layups and dunks, and Jokic obviously does those things too, but he shoots. He ranks third with a 61% true shooting mark, behind only Kevin McHale and Kawhi Leonard at 62%. Jokic is fifth in that group in 2-point percentage and second in 3-point percentage. Along with Kawhi, he's one of just 2 high volume shooters in playoff history with 50, 40, 80 shooting splits. 50% from the field, 40% from 3, 80% from the 3-point line. In case people are like, he's shooting 80% from 3? That's crazy. Not quite. He is historically good already offensively. There's some other advanced numbers. I don't want to throw them all out because people are like, I hate facts, and they want to
I'm
tune that shit
allergic to
out.
facts.
No, not the facts, not analysis. Oh
Just the
God, it might
facts,
be
kid.
imperfect, and I'll have to analyze it. Oh no. I'm sorry, Jaded. I love you. Everyone's catching strays today. I'm just, it's just the good mood that I'm in. But there's just no way to put it. Jokic is going to have a career arc where he goes 2 MVPs, probably should have been 3. Okay. He's going to win the finals MVP. He becomes the best player on the planet, even though he's arguably been the best player on the planet for at least 2 years. I think the first MVP year, it might have been a little too early to anoint him. And now people are just going to have to look at this guy and start asking, where does he fall already in the center conversation? Right? Because, people are already putting him in the top 10. And I would say that he is
Of
a
all
top 10
time?
center of all time. Yeah.
Bit early.
He's got.
I mean, he'll probably be there, but I think that's the danger of things. Like, I know even now people say that about James, how like as great as a career as he has, that it's still unfair to do anything with the terms and comparing to Jordan because he hasn't finished. Like he's not
That
done.
well, I think that it's fair because they're playing. We're going to put that much more scrutiny on them. And here's the other thing with the centers, right? So like, no one is going to say he's better than Wilt because Wilt, every time Jokic does something crazy, it's like the last guy who did that was Wilt Chamberlain. Like Wilt is the king of like the crazy stat record guy, and he has 2 rings, and people forget about that. No one's gonna say he's better than Kareem. No one's gonna say that he's better than Shaq. All right, that's like the holy three. No one's gonna take him over Russell yet, because Russell is arguably the greatest defensive player of all time and has 1,000,000 rings. Right? No one should be taking him over Olajuwon, who might have secretly been better than all of those guys, right? Those are my top 5 centers. Many of them Lakers. Just a passing thought. Okay.
I'll
But
just say for the record, even though you played power forward or shooting forward a little bit, is Tim Duncan's my guy.
Tim Duncan, but Tim Duncan hated playing center and only did it because he had to.
Right.
He loved beating up on the smaller guy because he was a smart guy. But Tim Duncan couldn't even average 20 points a game for his career, so he'd be disqualified anyway. Fucking, yeah, that's right. I'm taking shots at Timmy D. That's the type of good mood I'm in.
Here, can you come over here and just like lick my ass?
Yeah, I have an OnlyFans, and as such, I will not. I'm a capitalist, so as such, maybe
you gotta charge for that shit.
For a negotiated, daddy gets paid. All right, I got these student loans. Law school wasn't cheap. But if we're gonna start talking about guys like Patrick Ewing, David Robertson, guys like that, okay, I'll tell you this: they have longer careers. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't think they have more illustrious careers, just to be blunt. And I know at his peak, Jokic was a lot better. So you just kind of go like, let's say that Jokic, like there's this fan theory, Jokic wins the title and he's going to retire. He wants to go back home, farm, be with his family. He's made a lot of money, yada, yada, yada. Let's say that he did. So you're telling me I could have Ewing's career. He's like, in the 90s were different, to be fair, but he's scoring like 25 points or whatever. Or I could have Jokic, who can get me 30 a night fairly easily, get me as many rebounds, eventually become as solid of a defender, and be the best passer in basketball. I'll take the super insane historical prime over some of those guys. Because if you look at the 90s, right? Even with a young Shaq, a lot of people have taken Shaq in the 90s over David Robertson, Patrick Ewing, whatever, okay? You had Akeem, you had Alonzo Mourning. There are a lot of great centers, right? There's a ton of them. Shaq had not yet become Shaqtimus prime, as he did towards the very, very end of his time in Orlando and then in the Lakers. So if I only had Jokic for his 3 prime years, and you can have the other 12 years of those dudes, except Olajuwon, declining, why wouldn't I just say, fuck it, I'll take the extreme and be a true championship contender and have a guy whose stat line makes me go, hey, I might actually be able to beat Michael Jordan. No one believed that the Knicks were going to do it. No one really believed.
Okay, man, those Knicks teams were.
They were tough. Oh, they were going to maul you. It was going to be brutal. But at the end of the day, we were all betting Jordan. But the only team, you go back to the 90s, that people thought, oh, crap, they might actually beat them in the finals was the Jazz, the very last one, because
Yeah.
that was end of Jordan, and the Olajuwon Rockets, because when MJ came back and they ended up losing to the Magic, they didn't have a big, and Olajuwon was the best player in basketball at that time. That was 45 Jordan. He had not come back and regained his full power.
Right.
That's what I'm getting at. Or for the Broncos, for Denver fans or football fans, maybe the Terrell Davis argument. And I will take the crazy, crazy prime. And so I would put him in my top 10. I mean, I'd also consider that you get to like the honorable mentions and you start hearing names like George Mikan, who was a legend in his own time and stuff. But like
So
some of those
let me
old
get
heads
this
you throw
straight,
out.
though. So you'll take the prime. So Jordan had a kind of short career considered by many. So you'll take Jordan over James. I'm proud of you. We're making
No,
progress.
absolutely
We're
not.
making progress.
Because LeBron's 3 different primes are unprecedented.
3 different primes.
He did. No, have you ever? So here's this. No, check this out. You'll actually appreciate this because you like this sort of shit. So LeBron James has played for so long, and I can tie this into Jokic, so it won't be too off topic. When he came into the league, it was still that mid-range basketball, Kobe. Like you only had a couple 3-point shooters, and it was hard to always get to the paint. So it was the mid-range game was the most efficient way, right? Then you get to the second part of his career, you could say like about the time he goes to Miami, the 3-point line opens up a little bit more. You have the super team era, yada yada yada. Then the he goes back to Cleveland, maybe his second championship run in Cleveland, like or whatever, is the Steph Curry era where the 3-point shots are flowing. So that is like that is the end of the Jordan era, the mid-range era, right? That kind of weird in between, and then the era that we have now. And his numbers are almost identical from start to finish. So it's 3 primes and 3 different eras. It's just a cool little history thing. If you look at how his game has evolved and how he changed and evolved his game. Well, how do I loop that back to Jokic? Because what Jokic did, he gets a lot of comparisons to LeBron because they have a lot of similarities in terms of basketball outlook and IQ. He looks at the game of basketball, like I said, like a computer, like an equation type of deal. And he has fixed his game. Like he's a much better 3-point shooter now than he was coming into the league. He is, that crazy shuffle step thing that he developed when he had the busted up hand or finger, and that made it easier for him to shoot. He kept adding and adding and adding and adding to his, the kids call it the bag, all the different things you can do on the court. I'm just old and call them moves, but whatever, right? So that is something that I'm going to get from Jokic that I'm not going to get from those other guys. Like Shaq had 3 moves, and they were really good ones. Okay, he had the drop step, he had his little hook shot, and then he had I'm going to dribble 2 times and dunk on you, and it's going to sound like you're in Jurassic Park. Okay, Patrick Ewing had a little bit of a shot, yada yada yada. Only out of those guys I just said, Olajuwon, who had a lot of the crazy footwork that Jokic looked at and was like, yeah, that's still good 30 years later. Sign me up for that. I'll take that because I'll take the crazy, crazy, crazy prime over a bunch of years where somebody has a great year, but they're giving me 22 points and 10 rebounds and maybe 2 blocks. I'll take it because, quite frankly, your window, even though you have more years of that, your window for winning a championship is probably higher.
Yeah. All right. Well, so with the rest of this series, how do you see it playing out? Do you think the Nuggets just close it out, or do you think
I picked the Nuggets to sweep, and they didn't sweep. I'm going to say Nuggets in 6. I think Butler has one more game in him. This is the type of finals where everybody was going to be happy because Jokic either gets his ring or Butler gets his ring. Very easy guys to root for. But I don't know if you know this. Butler has the nickname Michael Jordan's illegitimate son. It's an amazing nickname. I knew you'd like that. I will take. I think that it will be the Nuggets in 6. I think that there's just too much to overcome for the Nuggets. That lineup is too deep. KCP and Porter Jr. aren't going to be. They're going to have their good shooting nights too. and the Heat have only been able to win. And they're a team that they knock down their 3-pointers. Their 3-point shooting is very true. It's not like, oh, we spike up high and averages out. Like they are a consistent 3-point shooting team, but they didn't have it last night, and that's one of the biggest reasons that they lost. When you have to rely on 3-point shooting to the extent that the Heat do, it's gonna bite you in the end. And it's not even I'm not even saying that they're a well or a poorly built roster or anything like that. But that's one of their avenues or paths to victory, and they just can't shoot 45 or 50% from three game after game. Not even the Warriors could do that, okay? With Clay and Steph and Durant. Not even they did it night after night after night. At least past the first round. The first round you're playing some fucking scrub. So
Yeah.
what about you? What because I'm are you going to be spicy and say Nuggets in 5? Are you going to give me that spicy chicken nugget?
Honestly, yeah, maybe. But I think it's all dependent on what happens in this next game. I think if Denver wins again on the road, they're going to close it out in Denver. Like, what better
Yeah.
place to close out your first championship in Denver? So, if they can find a way again to win on the road, I think it'll be 5 games. If not, I think it's probably going to be more like you. It's going to be about 6 games before they get it done. But there's always that possibility again if Miami wins this next game that they survive and
Sure.
go to 7. So like,
You're going to get everything from the Nuggets.
yeah,
everything from the Heat.
yeah. A lot of people thought that game 2 the Nuggets kind of took them lightly, and I think I don't know whether or not that's accurate, but it
I
was a
think
strong
that
showing last night for the Nuggets. They came out and
yeah,
they really took care of business. But
it
again, they were up by
a lot.
15 or so
They
points,
let
and
it
they kind
slip.
of let them back in at the end. But
The Nuggets. So the Nuggets issue is they under Malone they have become a solid defensive team. All teams will go through shooting slumps, right? Like it's just if you shoot the ball 1,000 times a game, you're gonna have a lot of consecutive misses somewhere in there, right?
yeah,
When they falter, and this is what the Lakers did to them. Like sometimes the Nuggets lose focus on defense, and so they rotate to the wrong guy. They lose track of their assignments. They aren't doing what they need to do. They give up the wrong switch. Yeah, all the little things that can happen. And you give up a couple of those, and then you miss a couple shots, and your team feels like, oh, we're back in it. And basketball, it comes in flurries, and all of a sudden that 15-point lead is now a 6-point lead, and the other team's inbounding the ball, and it could become a 3-point lead. Um, I am of the opinion that people also forget it's hard to play in the fucking finals. There's a lot of pressure. You're tired. The NBA the NBA postseason goes on for 2 months. You just played
yeah,
a full regular season. It's brutal. It's not as bad in the finals because you have that extra day off, which is what I was counting on. I was like, oh, my Lakers are old. They're going to be tired, but we get that extra
that's
day.
one advantage for Denver is they got to sit a little bit because Miami had to go to 7 games, I
Yep.
think, to win
Yep. And they didn't
their.
show any, and I had to give them credit because they didn't show any rust in game 1. But it's going to be beautiful. Lakers fandom aside, all the crazy shit that Jada texts me during the Nuggets games aside, God, I love that beautiful bastard. It's beautiful that Denver is going to have a championship. I mean, to me, and I'm, knock on wood, the only real threat for them losing is either injuries or just a collapse. And I
Right.
don't think they have the collapse in them. You go back to the bubble; they won those 2 series 3-1. They gave my Lakers a tough series. Before we got it done. There's too many dogs on that team. Murray's a killer. KCP is a tough guy. Jokic is the best player in basketball. It's going to be gorgeous. It's going to be gorgeous for those Nugget fans.
Yeah, as a Denver native, I'm pulling for the Nuggets. I mean, obviously I'm a Trailblazer fan, but watching the Nuggets sputter for so long, it'd be nice to see them get one in that.
Beautiful basketball. It's beautiful. People compared them to the Spurs, and I disagreed with that because the Spurs were so boring. They lost 3 million people of viewership, and the Nuggets are an entertaining team. So for all the folks who are like, it's like watching the Spurs, don't disrespect your team like that.
All right, well, let's talk a couple of things in the NFL. You brought it to my attention, which was a good thing. Broncos signed defensive end Frank Clark from the Chiefs today to a 1-year deal.
Good depth, good depth.
So it looks
Better-
like they're kind of making a push for a run here. I might be a little bit short-sighted. We don't know how Peyton's going to fare here as a coach, but his resume is impressive enough to say that, hey, maybe we're going to get it done. But it looks like they're kind of putting some pieces together to try to get the Broncos to be up there.
Exactly. You're in win now mode. Look, if Russell Wilson doesn't work out this year, you're going to be so horrible anyway that you might be able to flub your way into a top pick and try to get Caleb Williams. So it doesn't hurt to try to add a pass rusher, a veteran pass rusher, even though he's had several 5-sack seasons. He's coming down from his prime.
Right.
But he still was solid in the playoffs. Still can do some good things. Still gives you depth, and you need some depth there. It doesn't hurt in case the season goes the other way. $5.5 million for a guy with that resume who's not even in his mid-30s is good. The incentives got it up to, I don't know what they were exactly, but it got up to 7.5. It's not a bad deal at all.
Yeah.
He's gonna want to try to get revenge on the Chiefs. So
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because apparently he wanted them to give him another contract and they didn't do it.
And they said, nah.
The other news I just saw here is that looks like Bryce Young for the Panthers is made first team in OTAs. So do you think they didn't name him as a starter, but do you think maybe he actually ends up getting the starter job?
God, I hope so. I mean, he's very polished coming out. It would be scary if he couldn't win that job.
Right.
Like, I don't believe that through competition. I think that I think these coaches are smart. I think they do that. We're having a competition, and if it's even remotely close, they're going to give it to Bryce Young and find a way to justify it, right? It's not like a Drew Lock situation where you're like, please beat out Teddy Bridgewater. Oh, God damn it, Teddy Bridgewater's their starting quarterback.
I still think that was the worst mistake. Like, it's like,
I know.
It just at some point you have
to win.
Well, I mean, you have to see what these guys got. Like, I mean, we didn't even have that great of a season as it was. I'm like,
I know.
If you're gonna go 6-10 or whatever it is, then let the other guy play.
But Fangio wanted to keep his job, and that's where that's. I know what you're saying. Like, look, you have a better chance of actually winning if Drew Lock pans out and giving him a shot than Bridgewater micromanaging.
Let me tell you this about, and this is my only defense of Fangio, right?
Yeah.
If I'm going into that season, I've got Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. If the FO comes to me and says, we want you to play Teddy because we're trying to win a Super Bowl, it's like, it's not going to happen. It's Teddy Bridgewater. It's not going to happen. If you don't want me for this job, let me coach this job. Like, whatever happened there, maybe Fangio thought Teddy was the best shot, but I can tell you right now, many people just did not see that.
I hear everything you're saying. For me, this is how I came down the other way, because 9 out of 10 times I am that way. Locke was so bad, and that
he was,
and really, I think what screwed him was when he helped get the whole quarterback room suspended, the COVID stuff, and it showed zero leadership, and he wasn't progressing. I felt like it was such an extreme situation that, okay, if he can't beat out this very weak starter, strong backup guy, I'm just going to start him and hope my defense can hold them to 16 points a game and win that way. And then, maybe we go out and find a real quarterback. I felt for Fangio in the sense that he's like, I don't have front office control, and you've given me a Drew Lock and a Bridgewater, and there's a lot of issues there. But at the end of the day, when Locke played that year, he threw 2 of the worst interceptions that Bronco board has ever seen. And Fangio wasn't a very good coach either. Like, it was doomed. It was foretold to be doomed. God cursed you all. I feel bad. Like, I do, because you're just looking at that defense.
No, you don't.
Going,
you don't.
I mean, about 90%. 5% of me thought it was really funny. The other 5% was scorned. Y'all don't want me? Okay.
You don't want me as a fan? That's cool. Look
Yup.
what happened, motherfucker.
You got Drew Lock. You got locked out. Couldn't bridge the water, buddy. Couldn't bridge the water into the playoffs. Pow.
Oh, good.
Dalvin Cook got cut. He's worth picking up. I think he should go play with his brother in Buffalo. Bryce Young, I think he's going to win that job anyway. If he can't, it's horrifying. I saw earlier, I think it was just a joke on Twitter, but once it's a meme at this point. Once again, Terrell Owens is trying to come back into the NFL. It's the same. No, I know. I think.
I mean, he's probably still very physically gifted and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
But again, who wants that headache, man?
That 50-year-old headache? No, not me.
Yeah,
right. Not me. But that's the NFL news. I'll tell you this, and I for your Broncos, if Russ drops the ego, and we're not going to get into the argument with some of the folks that he didn't have an ego, you're being hater. He did. Like, let's get over it. If he drops the ego and he doesn't try to play hero ball, because Hackett called bad plays, and then Russ would still run around and do dumb stuff. Whatever. He's in better shape. If he can be, because I think it's impossible for him to have a season where even in a vacuum, he's a top 5 quarterback, right? I mean, like Mahomes, Herbert, Burrow, Allen. You have descending Trevor Lawrence. You have wherever Lamar is going to fall. Like there's a lot of crazy talent. It just feels impossible. If he can be in that 8 to 12 range, because sometimes you have an uptick of guys who have career years, right?
You're right.
So I'll factor for that. If he's in that 8 to 12 range, the Raiders are imploding. The Chargers have some roster issues. The Chiefs are going to be rough. Okay. I don't believe in the Browns very much. I don't. I think the roster is falling off. I think people are used to them being a dark horse or wild card team, so they're overrating them. Will be interesting to see how my Steelers do. But there is a way in which your Broncos are a wild card team and not even the third wild card. So I think the first 4 weeks are actually for your team are going to be even more important than the last 4 weeks because you all have so much to prove. You've been linked somewhat to Cook. If you could get him at a contract that works, it'd be good insurance for Javonte, and Javonte would be good insurance for him. Because you're going to need to run the ball. Now you got a lot of offensive line.
We have to stay healthy, man. Like we just even in last year when as bad as it was, like injuries just piled on everything that was going on. It's just a nightmare for us.
You mean you don't love being on your third right tackle or whatever it was? Yeah, no,
ridiculous.
Your offensive line was the equivalent of Baltimore's secondary 2 years ago. You're just looking around, going, "Where are my starters?"
Yeah, I mean, I was waiting for the phone call. Like, yeah, we need you to come play tackle, dude. I'm you're not doing that. No.
Yo, did you get that Poet guy? He's a fat bastard. You think
I'm like, did you just see what happened to that Hamlin? He's healthy as hell. Look, I'd be dead on the field. They wouldn't even get me back.
Yeah,
my ghost would be there.
I would be running up the stairs for conditioning and just keel over. Like, what he die of? Fatness. His heart said, "Nah, dog, we out," and his body turned off.
Well, do you have anything coming up? Anything you're doing? Are you still working on? You were working on something at one point.
So I hired an artist for the cover of my book. He hit some personal snafu, so I still have that in the work, and then I'm gonna go through the process of starting to get it, published. I'm not on Amazon. I'm not gonna try to do too much work until I have the cover done. The book is written. That's the big one. I need the cover done. I didn't want to go the AI art route because you don't have intellectual property rights to it anyway. And more importantly, AI art should be like a fun thing. It shouldn't be something that takes away from artists, money.
Right.
So like if you're playing D&D, when I run games, D&D games online for money, and you want to make a cool picture because you're tired of looking at the same old picture for a vampire or a mummy or something. Cool, use that. But if you're doing something where you would have commissioned somebody to do something for you in the first place, give your money to the artists. I got that going. Start running my games online. you know, you were talking about that one project, you and I, the last time we were on here. I think, I'll keep that under wraps, but I think the next time we do this, I'll have something to announce on that. I've started writing another book. I got some stuff going on. I'm active on Twitter, although that place is a cesspool and the site doesn't even really work these days. In my personal life, I took Sugar, my
Oh,
French bulldog, to the vet. Uh,
Neko wants to know what your Twitter handle is.
oh sweet God, I don't even have that memorized. Hold on, let me go to this cesspool.
It's Poet Loves Jordan. That's what it
Oh
is.
yeah, it's Poet loves Jordan and Anubis is a bitch. That's a really weird. It's a really really strange handle. No, so it is. It would load. You can find me at Showtime Demon 87, all one word,
So
capital S,
SHO Demon. Oh no,
H
SHO Time Demon.
SHOWTIME Demon 87
Oh,
with
you
a
actually have
capital
the
S.
W in there. The other one on your.
Yeah, because Blizzard hates me. Because they said screw you, fat boy, no W.
Showtime Demon 87.
Yep.
Yep. You can find me there.
How do you spell Demon?
Next time I can post a hyperlink to the games I
DEMON.
run
There
online.
he is.
There
There
he
I
is.
am.
I'm gonna follow
I
him.
got this going. I'm at a different point in my life. I got a lot of projects going. See what I can do. We'll see
Do
if
you have
we'll
like the?
see.
Is it like the nightmare or nightmare? The it looks like a pumpkin as your.
It is not a pumpkin. You are drunk. It is.
A
It's
smiley
got.
face.
I.
Or is this a different Showtime Demon I found?
You're going to need to take her to the hospital. Alcohol poisoning has set in. It is a black and white picture with a menacing, scary looking demon. Not a pumpkin.
Is it black and white?
Look,
It is pink. Follow me.
Is it just a smiley face?
It is just a face. I don't know.
Okay, I think that's it.
okay. It says professional dungeon master.
That's
Yeah.
All
right.
right, there we go. That's
That
it.
Yep. That's right. I run games online. Oh, I guess I could say this. On Friday, I'm running my. There's a new game that Critical Role came out with called Kendala Obscura. It's a new gaming system. I'm running a game online tomorrow for a reduced price because it's a new gaming system and it's I've never ran it before and the rules are unfinished. If you're looking for a Dungeons and Dragons game, looking for a Pathfinder game, looking for a Kendala Obscura game, you don't have anyone to play with, or you want to play weekly with a consistent schedule with a DM who's not going to screw you over, and we want to actually play, holler at me. I'm really good with rules because I have a very fancy law degree that I don't use. So, I can, if you can understand the Constitution, you can understand a rule book, and I am living proof of that. I got the books coming out. I got that thing that we'll save for next time, and life is good, man. I'm in a creative space. I make enough money to pay my bills. I'm living the dream, and I'm saying that unironically. What about you? I know you got about 5 million different projects that you just
Yeah, it's
completed.
crazy right now. Neko and I have been doing a lot of band reviews. We actually got another interview tomorrow.
Nice.
I'm setting up like 4 more coming up, and then tonight we're going to be doing another unboxing and then a trailer reaction for Expendables 4.
Ooh.
Yeah, I've been playing Diablo 4, so I am into gaming as well. I'm not like the Asmongold's or these other guys out there, but for anybody who wants to play Diablo 4, I do have a guild called the Assassins of Thulsa Doom. So if you want to join my guild, you can. It'd be cool
You
to
gonna
run
stream
some
it?
stuff. She wants me to, but I don't think I'm good enough to do that.
You don't have to be good. You have to be entertaining.
Well, I'll be entertained as I'm dying. That's pretty much how it is. I mean,
people love Schadenfreude.
I do have a level 52 necromancer at the current time.
There you go. That's when I eventually have time to grab it.
It's a great and beautiful game. It looks.
Oh yeah, and I've been wanting to play it on my PS5. But I've been playing a lot of Tears of the Kingdom, the Zelda game. Oh my god, I could rant about that game forever.
They say it's really good.
You know what we should do? We should have a separate podcast, called like Fat Gamers, and just talk
No,
about.
Oh, you should stream it together. Can you both stream at the same time?
I cannot stream Zone. Oh God, watching me fail will make people sad.
no, we could do it because I have some other guys that I've done shows with, like Big Bad Wolf. He's a huge gamer. They would enjoy doing something like
We
that.
could, there we go. Now we have Fat Gamers Incorporated coming at you. We make this shit up on the fly because we're fly. That's right. That's the new hashtag. Find me at Smiling Pumpkin Face at
So
Twitter.
instead of pretty hot and tempting, it's gonna be pretty hot and tanky.
pretty hot and tanky. And you know what? Just keep in mind that when I build my defensive Diablo 4 character, it's not going to crumble in the clutch like the Bills defense. So yep, pot shots at the Bills. Pot shots at the Bills.
Now, also for the people that have been following this show, this Mr. Guy over here and I are going to do a big discussion on Jordan James and Kobe Bryant and probably other Hall of Famers at some point in that discussion. But we'll be doing that down the road. He and I are going to work out the day we want to do that.
We're going to do it. We've been keeping it in the back pocket because that topic is evergreen.
It's going to take the entire time.
It's just going to be that. And then us randomly making fun of the Bills defense and the Browns for giving Deshaun Watson that contract. Why? Because, we haven't done that yet. So Browns, you're still fucking dumb for giving Deshaun Watson that contract. Snuck it in. Let's
not forget, by the end of that discussion, Anubis is going to be walking away like this. Yeah.
You're going to get beat so bad you turn into a high school girl? I mean, I'm powerful, but I don't know. I don't know. Why am I going to be like, I'm going to beat you so bad you will revert to being a high school girl. No, I want you to all know, listen, I give a very factual, detailed analysis. And
he puts the work in, folks. He is
I put the work in. Now, my man is not fact free either. You, I believe, tell me if you'd agree with this. You have more of a historical bent in your analysis than I do. It's not like I'm devoid because I talk about Jordan's competition and you talk about the different eras and what translates and what doesn't. But this is what we're going to do. It might get a little heated. It might get a little testy because that makes it fun. But we're not going to give you an ESPN or Fox Sports 1, 2, 3 coloring book debate. Obviously, you're going to hear some similar arguments from us that you hear there. There are certain arguments. Jordan's going to argue 6 rings because you should. I'm going to argue 4 rings against better competition and statistical dominance because I should. There's going to be some things, but we're going to get into it. And I'll close out with this. I want you to give me at least 2 or 3 things that you really find. It's like, okay, LeBron's great. He's in your top 5. You're not saying he's a bum. Okay. But you just aren't convinced on this. And I will spend some of my time specifically addressing that, trying to convince you, and you will be the kind of the figurehead for the audience and vice versa. Because if you were to say, and you've read what I wrote, all that stuff. If you were to say, you know what, I like those arguments. Those are good arguments, but they don't convince me because of X, Y, and Z. I think it behooves me to address that, and vice versa. We should try, even if we're not going to persuade one another, we should try to persuade those who don't have an opinion yet or who are just interested in it. Because, and I've said it before,
that's how it works. You and I have already come to the realization that
we're not budging, right?
No, we're not going to change each other's mind, but we put the work in and solidifying our arguments.
Right. And here's the thing too.
It's like a court of law.
It's Jesus, no, not the PTSD. no, I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'm sorry. What really matters is the arguments are substantive and they're actually aimed. We started the show with Skip, and how he's not the most honest debater, kind of a sophist, ironically, given your past interview. We're not going to do that. And the other thing is, we're going to have fucking fun. And plus, I'm gorgeous. You get to look at me. So, who's the real winner? You. Who's the sacrifice? Me. I do it for all of you. So,
The one good news is that we won't end the show like Indisputed. We'll be still here when all it's said and done.
yeah, they don't pay us that much money. We're stuck. Like we
Oh, you get
they
paid?
live in Beverly
You get
Hills.
paid? Shit.
Yeah,
You guys
yeah.
are friends, and you can have discussions and disagree and not hate each other.
Now,
Well, if you want to know some history about us, we didn't talk for like a year.
yeah, we
I
had.
believe that with you because you are the biggest baby. Sometimes
There were
Sometimes not agree with you.
Let me just say that if
Can't
there
you
was,
go back out on a ship? I don't need this right now.
oh god, yeah, and we can sink it. If there was, I'll just say that there was more than one poopy diaper in that scenario.
Yeah, and see, but I appreciate that because we were both being honest, and at the end of the day, we worked it out, and it kind of made our relationship much better. Because now we understand each other where we're coming from. Even though the rest of the Bronco board doesn't know, they don't understand us. It doesn't matter. We understand each other. That's what's important.
I just, they didn't want me as a fan, and here I am. It even rhymed. It's just
Kind of funny.
That's why I'm the poet. That's why I'm the poet, James.
Heyo.
Hello.
And with that, I got nothing. I have no more shitty puns left. I'm spent. What about you,
Yep.
my friend?
I'm done, and thank you all for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, please. We'll keep you updated on what Poet's doing. Obviously, my better half. We'll be doing some stuff later, not sexual like she's trying to do right now.
This is a family friend. This isn't a family friendly show. What am I talking
No,
about?
it's not.
This is the hardest working man on the internet. If you don't like and follow his projects, I'm going to break into your house. I'm going to eat all your food. I'm going to use your bathroom. I'm not going to flush. You don't want that.
That's his tagline.
Or spray.
Or
No
spray.
No
Wait,
spray.
who sprays? Like
No spray.
Yeah, that's against my
Leafy.
Yeah, that's right. It
I
makes
am
you
so
strong.
happy you guys get to do this together. I'm such a nerd. Sorry. But I'm very happy that you guys get to do this together. I mean, you're actually a lot closer to us now.
I am like 5 hours closer to you. Illinois
So
is
when you're coming over, anytime soon?
when I'm not poor. So I got to get those books. So
well, maybe on our way back from Chicago, we'll swing by.
oh god, if I was still there, it would have only damn. Oh, we'll work something out, and maybe you can meet Sugar, the world's grumpiest little French bulldog, but also the best. Well, my friends, I'd pick her up right now, but she's asleep.
All right, all. Thank you all for tuning in.
Take care.
Keep it metal. Keep it rocking, and
Keep it metal. Happy Pride. LeBron James.
Here's your new bears.
LeBron James.
Anubis.
MJ Anubis. I love it. That's a shirt.
Just for your time.